Revelations! Welcome back, nerds and nerdettes, to the world of survival horror. That's right, we're going to be hitting up one of the best Resident Evil games to come out in recent years, Resident Evil Revelations. Unless you have the 3DS version, then it's Resident Evil Revelations. I have no fucking clue. So, whether you got a Wii U, 360, PS3, fucking irrelevant, grab a Jill sandwich, grab your Barry Burton cup if you don't have one, make one for fuck's sake. Anyway, Resident Evil Revelations, pretty much it puts survival and horror back in the forefront of the series. It's not a fucking shooting gallery like certain other titles in the series. No, this is... Wait a minute. This doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem right at all. Where the fuck am I? Wait a minute. What the f...
No, that's not right. Run back to the start and try again.
Oh god fucking damn!
Review outsourcing? What are you, Microsoft? Review start! ...2005... Fuck you. Fuck you! I don't know who you killed. I don't know what arcane unholy force you draw your satanic energy from. What I do know is that ever since my calendar lapsed on over to 05, survival horror as a genre has been insufferable shit. Perhaps it was the disbanding of Team Silent in 04, the departure of Shinji Mikami from Capcom, or the laborious march into a sixth console generation that had more identity crises than DC Comics during a slow sales period. But you ruined survival horror, and fuck you very much. The silver lining though, since mid-2012, what we'd previously regarded as a long-deceased patient began to register a fucking pulse. Silent Hill Downpour, while far from perfect, was an unqualified step in the right direction for this heretofore flagging series, and Christ knows the arrival of Naughty Dog's latest set-piece Wellspring The Last of Us was heralded by a chorus of bought-out gaming journalists ejaculating in unison, but the uncontested silver lining of the silver lining arrived in the form of Resident Evil Revelations. Sure, Revelations is still a modern horror title with all the proclivities and developmental eccentricities that entails. What a steaming ladleful of irony that is, that in an effort to shed the formulaic and admittedly clunky design of the early RE titles, they reinvented it with a formulaic and clunky design. Brilliant! What constructively separates Revelations from other recent RE titles that have milked this engine and formula bone-ass dry is that when that inevitable moment arrives where all the doors spontaneously locked, the string section hits the higher octaves, and somnolent hordes of super mutant firearm fodder pin you to the wall until you've given them all a .45 caliber coffee break, it's actually in service to a prevailing atmosphere and tone that comes dangerously close to being legitimately fucking creepy. Distinguished even further from its projectile-pumping peers in the numbered Resident Evil series by the game's more miserly approach to conferring ammunition. If this were Resident Evil 6 and a gaggle of 300-pound hired thugs were able to pin me to the love seat long enough to actually get me to play the fucking thing again, yet another action set piece with conveniently barred exits and frothing zombie hordes encircling the player would scarcely be worthy of the resultant eye roll. But with Revelations' ammo-related strictures, what was old is fucking new again, and it's remarkably effective. Shining particularly bright is the game's monster design. Oh sure, Squid Head Von Tennis Racket Hands probably won't be sweeping this year's Originality Awards, but after Amos and Andy presents Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 where the enemy's only common denominator was brown skin, yeah, I'll take what I can fucking get. The weapon customization is a breath of fresh air after the streamlined stuffiness of RE5 and 6. One thing that's come into sharp focus for me over the last damn near decade of the survival horror drought, popping a zombie's head like a ripe watermelon is twice as satisfying when the gun in your hands is Donatello'd the fuck out with enough scopes, damage modifiers, and laser sights to Deadeye Diane Feinstein from Saturn. If there's a fly to be found in the proverbial ointment, then its name is Chris Redfield. Chris, you poor fuck. You selflessly hoisted this entire series on your oily, bulging shoulder boulders and bore it to the promised land with the original Resident Evil and its stellar GameCube remake. But did we thank you? Fuck to the no. Shit, well over half of us played as Jill Valentine instead because pixelated vaginas were still a novelty in 1996. Then you were unceremoniously replaced by Captain Comeover in the sequel, and for the next half-decade found yourself in varying states of kick to the fucking curb until some asshat Capcom executive was feeling feeling charitable one afternoon and let you out of your cage during the latter half of Resident Evil Code Veronica. The bad news? Code Veronica was Code Veronica. And now, because being scared is nearly as out of fashion as zombies that can't outrun a velociraptor, you've been slamming uncut rhino steroids into the vein beneath your cock, and your games went from being set in the Mall of the Living Dead to Mall of Duty. Now here you sit, relegated to being the weakest link in the chain that is Revelations. Like a beefed up, unwelcome party guest every time Jill's shambling shindig kicks into full swing. Here's Chris Redfield with a bucket full of set pieces, slamming all the Pilsner and putting Sha-Na-Na on the stereo. I mean, we'd kick him the fuck out, but it's really not his fault. He's a product of his environment, and his environment are the real zombies at modern-day Capcom. And speaking of The Walking Dead, what stage of cerebral necrosis spawned this game's save system, if you feel comfortable even calling it that? Checkpoints? Never fucking work. Ever. Especially on a handheld, and especially in 2013. If you're still using them this late in the game, you're everything that's wrong with everything, and seppuku is your only hope for redemption. Checkpoints took the red eye out of here back in 2002, folks. They're having cocktails with somethingawful.com's relevance. Acquire a fucking clue, Professor Plum. Look, virtually everyone who has played this game has suggested at one time or another that this is the game Resident Evil 6 should have been, but I actually disagree. Revelations is the game Resident Evil 4 should have been. Rather than allowing themselves to become so thoroughly impressed with their third-person shooting mechanics, advanced enemy AI, quick-time events, and fully 3D environments, Capcom should have asked themselves how they could put those inventions to work in service to the genuine horror and dread of classic Resident Evil. Because the light atmospherics of RE4, while quaint, did not get the job done. Revelations finally does. I'm RazörFist. God fucking speed.
And one, and a two, and a Resident Evil! Get it right, you fucking asshole!